So the pictures you just saw are shocking. They're also real, so they can't be ignored. In the coming days, you'll hear what's happening at the border described as a humanitarian crisis. That means the migrants are suffering, and they definitely are suffering, and that's sad. But what's sadder is that Americans are suffering too. Open borders have caused a deadly crisis among the very people our government supposedly exists to protect. Close to 100,000 Americans have died of drug overdoses in the last year. These are not 85-year-olds with emphysema in nursing homes. These are kids on your street, young people in the prime of life, our country's future, the next generation. And they are dead now, mostly because of fentanyl that came up through Mexico. So open borders means much more of this poison in your neighborhood killing our children. Statistics released this week show that as of the end of July, fentanyl seizures at the southern border are more than double what they were for all of last year. Joe Biden did that. Open borders mean many more young Americans will die. Again, Joe Biden did that. Neither he nor anyone around him cares, however. If 100,000 Afghan refugees died this year, of anything, what would we be talking about? That. And only that. CNN would do a special every week. What happened to the Afghan refugees? That would be the single biggest issue in this country by far. But 100,000 American young people, Joe Biden never even mentions it. He doesn't care. And drugs are hardly the only disastrous effect of open borders. The median price of a new home in this country is now almost 6 times higher than the median American household income. Think about that. That's a record. It's never happened. It's never been more expensive than it is now to buy a house. If you're a young person who's hoping to start a life in this country, that is a disaster. So why is it happening? Lots of reasons. Fed policy, for one. But one of the reasons is overcrowding. It's that simple, supply and demand. No one ever mentions it, but since 1990, this country has gained about 100 million people. 100 million. 1990 doesn't seem like that long ago to some of us. Thanks to the lunatics now in charge, this unsustainable growth is accelerating in ways it never has before, ever. Under Joe Biden, hundreds of thousands of immigrants are coming into the United States every single month. So where are they going to live exactly? Where are they going to send their children to school? What about the health care they've been promised for free? Have you been to a hospital emergency room recently? You should go. Check it out. Once you see it, you'll understand the future the Democratic Party is planning for you. Squalid, overcrowded, chaotic, loud. Of course, having created this human disaster, Democrats now claim they have a solution to it. Of course, that's why they created it in the first place, so they could fix it. What's their solution? Amnesty for 8 million. That's what they proposed, and they may very well get it. Republicans are allowing this, by and large. That amnesty, you should know, would apparently extend even to violent criminals and gang members. But wait a second, you may be asking. I'm an American. How is allowing MS-13 to choose my government to vote in my elections going to make my life better? What's in it for me? Well, here's Zoe Lofgren of California to explain.
This amendment is very simple. It requires that aliens not receive amnesty if they are a gang member.
I must oppose this amendment. As was mentioned before, the effect of the amendment would really be to frustrate the legislative recommendations that are an investment in human infrastructure. The United States will benefit from the resulting economic gains really for decades to come. This amendment would dilute that investment and diminish those economic benefits, and that alone is enough to oppose this amendment.
Oh, the economic gains from inviting millions more people who don't have high school diplomas into the country. Nothing against those people. But does any adult really foresee a future in this country where low-skilled labor is the engine of economic growth? That's insane. In fact, it's a lie shocking even by Washington standards. The Biden administration's plan will ultimately entitle illegal immigrants to the full benefits of citizenship. That's the whole point. That would include Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even as the welfare state expands, the number of people drawing from it expands as well. How's that going to end? The cost of all of this, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will be in the hundreds of billions of dollars in the next few years alone. What about long term? Some estimates put the cost at well over $1 trillion or more. But that's all justified, according to Zoe Lofgren, because it's human infrastructure. Human infrastructure? That's weird. Humans are not infrastructure. Humans are alive. They have souls. There's a difference between people and sewage systems. But not in the eyes of the Democratic Party. There's really not that much difference. They don't care about individuals. Individuals are expendable. That's the mindset of every revolutionary through history. People are a means to power. So to our leaders, illegal immigrants have a very specific functional purpose. They are a tool to change the country forever and ensure permanent democratic control over our government. They look at the numbers. If you were born in this country and you don't have a high school degree, you're not voting for them. You don't like what they're doing. They don't want to change your mind. They can't be bothered, so they're going to bring in new people without high school degrees. Got it? It's changing the country in order to win elections. So if this passes, millions of people who came to this country illegally, who by definition don't care about our laws, law and order, that's why all those people from January 6th are still in solitary confinement, because they didn't believe in law and order. But the people who care so deeply about law and order are welcoming millions who clearly don't buy our system because they're breaking our laws the day they get here. The only point of this is to make the Democratic Party more powerful. That's why it's not simply Zoe Lofgren who's talking about human infrastructure. The Biden administration is talking about it too. So is Jerry Nadler. He chairs the House Judiciary Committee.
Strikes the entire immigration title and the important investments in our human infrastructure that it makes. Therefore, I urge opposition to the amendment.
Yes, if the chairman would indulge me, I'd like to know if he just used the term human infrastructure to refer to the portion of the bill that Mr. Gohmert seeks to strike with his amendment.
I did.
So illegal immigration is now human infrastructure. I don't know what to say.
That was Congressman Thomas Massie, and he's absolutely right. And it's true and obvious to anyone who actually reads the amnesty bill. Under the Biden administration's plan, several categories of illegal aliens will get green cards, meaning they will be allowed to live in this country and eventually get full citizenship and be allowed to vote for Democrats. One of the groups that will receive green cards includes, quote, essential workers. This at a time when we've got an employment crisis. But what are essential workers exactly? Well, it turns out, according to the Democrats in Congress, pretty much every worker is an essential worker. Illegal migrants working in agriculture, which is overwhelmingly mechanized now, by the way, healthcare, food, construction, transportation are all included. They can stay here indefinitely. So can illegal migrants that the Biden administration refers to as dreamers. That sounds like a relic from the Obama years. No, it includes any illegal immigrant who entered this country prior to this year under the age of 18. This is insane. Let's just say it. To prove how insane it is, Congressman Mike Johnson of Louisiana tried to introduce an amendment that would ban illegal migrants who have multiple DUIs from getting amnesty. Remember, we used to be against drunk driving? Not anymore. That was rejected too.
Let's make sure that if you have a serial offender, someone who repeatedly is convicted of driving under the influence, that at least that will prevent them from being given amnesty. I urge all my colleagues to at least support this amendment, and I yield back.
Whether someone has 2 or 6 or 10 or 20 convictions of DUI 30 years ago, someone can change. That's why we have the waiver provision. You may have any number of convictions for DUI because you're a drunk, because you're an alcoholic, but you also may cease to be an alcoholic. And we all know people, or at least I know people, I'm sure many of us know people, who are no longer alcoholics and ought to be able to enjoy the benefits of the law.
Yeah, so they suddenly have deep compassion for people struggling with chemical dependence. That's why they shut down the country's AA meetings for the last year. What do you think the effect of that was? That's why they completely ignored nearly 100,000 Americans dead of drug ODs. They don't care at all. But you hear the compassion in Jerry Nadler's voice? He's got real compassion for serial criminal offenders. as long as they're coming here illegally. He does not have compassion for you. So the minute that you break the law that Jerry Nadler and the Democratic Party would like to enforce, the ones where they tell you what you can do with your own body, what job you can have, what you can say in public, then you're not human infrastructure, you're a criminal. Here's the Senate Majority Leader explaining that we need a crackdown at the border, not because illegal aliens are flooding into this country, many using fake documents. No, the real problem, according to Chuck Schumer, is that we have fake vaccine cards, not fentanyl, fake vaccine cards coming from Mexico. That's the real threat.
And the problem is this: fake COVID cards. And they're coming in large amounts, in large bunches through ports of entry. Is this an epidemic right now? No. Could it become one? Absolutely, if the authorities do nothing about it. So we have to nip it in the bud. Our Border Patrol, our Customs, and our FBI can go all out with inspections and confiscate any of these cards as they come and they are mailed here. So today, I am urging a federal crackdown on these counterfeit COVID cards.
A federal crackdown. There's more fentanyl coming over our border, killing Americans across the American citizens born here than ever before in history. Mexico is in the middle of a drug war. The Zetas, MS-13 from Central America, all coming up here. Chuck Schumer doesn't care. But counterfeit vaccine cards that might allow people to get around insane vaccine mandates, which are immoral and unconstitutional, no. Those people need to go to prison. That'd be very bad for America's health. It's totally, completely nuts. Meanwhile, the same people that are telling you that we need to allow felons from Central America, including gang members and people with 20 DUI arrests, to flood into this country, we need to make these people into citizens. They know it's dangerous, more dangerous than COVID, but they're doing it anyway.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.